Hey everyone, welcome back! Today, I'm here to tell you that Garuda received an absolutely monstrous buff with the Companion Rework update. It's probably not what most expected, but this is a Garuda Talons build. But it hits only red crits. And no, I didn't sacrifice any damage to do this. In fact, the Companion update skyrocketed her Talons damage potential so high that, well, by how much? At least 5.1 times. Why? Well, let's get into that. This builds on the Unkillable Garuda build I made about 2.5 years ago and refreshed last year when her prime came out. And its current state, it's even more unkillable and more DPS than ever before. You even have the option to drop Banes to offset some of the 5.1 times damage increase for even better quality of life and never having to worry about factions again. Okay, so what exactly is going on here? Garuda's Talons are exalted weapons with a unique quirk. They can only be equipped when you don't bring a melee on the loadout. More importantly, they do not consume energy to use and can use the usually banned Acolyte mods Blood Rush and Weeping Wounds. Sounds wonderful, right? Unfortunately, they do not scale with strength, and of course, because you cannot bring a melee when you want to use your Talons, this also prevents you from bringing stat stick tech like Gladiator full sets or Incarnon melee perks. Garuda Prime is notable because unlike normal exalted weapons, her Prime variant also received an actual stat upgrade on her exalted weapon. It's nothing to scoff at, jumping from 248 to 280 innate damage or a 13% overall increase, and most importantly from 20 to 35% base crit. Normal Talons just barely make it past 100% crit chance, whereas Prime Talons break past 200. And today, with our setup, 300. Being an exalted weapon carries another interesting quirk. Limbo's Banish prevents weapons from hitting across the rift. You can make all enemies unhittable, but they also can't hit you. The exception are Xmas units, which Garuda has no problem slicing and dicing. But because Garuda Talons are considered an exalted weapon, hence an ability, they can also hit through the rift. This allows you to rift enemies out of existence, basically putting you on 1v1 terms with Xmas, all the while still being able to rip apart trash fodder with complete impunity. This is even better because Banish is a massive cone that goes through walls, easily letting you rift enemies that you can't even see yet and cover entire halves of rooms. The downside? It's still a cone and not a sphere around you. However, this setup is so strong and unkillable you may notice yourself not even needing to cast Banish much on base Steel Path. Banish brings one other problem. Because normal weaponry cannot hit across the rift, this also meant a banished Garuda could not benefit from a primer to add viral stacks and additional status procs for condition overload. Therefore, she was limited to prime pressure point and no bonus damage scaling. If you modded her claws with some viral, her slash procs were diluted, and they also did less damage since you used slots for viral instead of stronger crits, banes, or range. However, the Companion Rework changed all of that. Diriga once again comes to save the day with our Coil. While weapons cannot bypass the rift, abilities can, and our Coil is an ability. This preset primes 7 enemies within 10 meters with a 2 seconds cooldown. And what elements? Elements stat sticked onto your sentinel weapon, of course, but only when Manifold Bond is equipped to pass those status effects onto the Coil AoE. Perfect for hack and slash melee, because a single kill activating Manifold Bond will remove all of our Coil's cooldown, and ends up triggering 1 to 2 times per second instead of every 2 seconds, spamming viral procs everywhere. This grants you access to IPS, Viral, and Electric for 5 unique status effects on condition overload scaling, while also ramping up viral procs quickly on survivors for additional damage scaling on bleeds. Now, we have the ultimate primer for Garuda Talons, but it doesn't end there. Let's look at that Diriga. We have our Coil of course in the top left slot, so that prioritizes spamming this. Since the majority of our priming comes from our Coil, I can afford to bring Volclock with the viral, as Garuda Talons bring their own IPS to reach 5 status effects. While she has low impact and puncture, anything that's fodder will die instantly due to having viral and electric on them as well, so it doesn't matter. But enemies that survive beyond 1-2 seconds, which is enough to get about 4 or 5 swings of your claws, will have impact and puncture on them to grant the full 5 status scaling for condition overload. Volclock means I can pass 50% crit chance for Tenacious Bond of pushing my crit damage stat scaling from 5 to 6.2 times. In other words, my red crits go from 13 to 16.6 times. That's a pretty fat damage bump. Then we have Guardian for shield gate spam as needed. Assault mode is also used because changing targets and proccing our Coil both count as ability casts for building Mystic Bond stacks. You will fully activate Mystic Bond every 2 to 3 seconds on Diriga, making ability casts effectively free. This lets you run 45% efficiency Garuda without needing flow and barely needing to bloodlet. Accelerated deflection is just quality of life. Primed Regen cuts revive time to 25 seconds on Diriga, which can be lowered even further with Momentous Bond. Last slot is flex for whatever you want it to be it Animal Instinct, Shield Mod so Diriga gets better shield gate, or Aerial Bond so you can even spam aerial attacks against trash fodder to revive Diriga faster without Xmas units. Let's look at Garuda next, because plenty of things change there too. This build requires absolutely 0 Archon Shards whatsoever. There's so much freedom, and the reworks gave even more. Previously I had Prime Flow and Streamline equipped, which already wasn't really needed. Now with Mystic Bond Diriga and much higher damage that allows me to eliminate even non-banished targets, the energy requirements are basically non-existent. Garuda also had tweaks to her kit earlier last year, improving base casting speed of some abilities, giving her more iframes, and just a lot easier to survive on. This freed up 2 mod slots on the build, and I hope the fact I slotted Natural Talent instead of using Archon Shards shows how many free slots we have. Now I filled these 2 flex slots with Gladiator mods to further boost crit chance on Garuda Talents by plus 220% mod crit at 12 times combo, which is how I managed to pass 300% total for all reds. Gladiator Finesse also works a bit like a weaker Quick Thinking, so that even if my HP hits 0, maybe by bloodletting without shield gating by accident, I still won't die until my energy bottoms out. So now, we have Shield Gate, Gladiator Finesse, Guardian Shield Sentinel Reset, and even Brief Respite on a 45% efficiency build with 3 Augremons, 2 being on your pistol. Even casting my 1 gets me 106 shields back for a little bit of Shield Gate. If you're really determined, I would recommend dropping Natural Talent for 2 casting speed shards and slotting Catalyzing shields, since that will cut her shield max down to 93, and both Banish or her 1 will fully reset her 1.33 seconds shield gate, but I just didn't really feel the need to do it. Arcane Strike Infuriator here go too, since all you want is to strike your claws faster and harder. Alternatively, your aura could be enemy radar to get 60 meter radius. Strength does not affect skilling of her claws, and 139% is more than enough for 100% bleed from her 4 if you need it. The massive range stat should be really obvious on why, as we use it to hit massive groups of enemies and through walls with Banish per cast. If you want comfy access to her 4, you could also drop Natural Talent for blending Talons for radial/proc setups and single tap casts, instead of needing to double tap to finish casts prematurely as a cone in front of you. Prime Sure-Footed is pretty standard, though do keep in mind you're immune to knockdown while Dread Mirror is active. 155 duration, so your shield lasts 31 seconds at least for frontal damage block. Yes, it also makes you immune to knockdown while it's active. Yes, you can still throw your ball sack for damage if you want on the setup since you have 22 meter explosion radius, but it's entirely optional for entertainment since your claws are already enough. Focus School doesn't matter. Guns don't matter, though at least bring Dexterity Arcanes for combo duration in your Garuda Prime Talents. As long as Pistol has 2 Augremons, you're good. Brahma if you want to kill Acolytes, but a single heavy attack from Claws is also enough to destroy them. Let's take a look at her Talons build. The only difference between this Talons build and my OG one is I replaced Bane with Spring-Loaded Blade. If you're doing Endurance, keep the Bane for 2.4 times more damage on bleeds, but for Base Steel Path, because this Garuda setup does at least 5.1 times more damage than my original Banish Garuda from 2 years ago, you can freely give up that 2.4 times Bane buff for more range to take advantage of that juicy 0.8 follow through. 7.2 meter range sweeps are amazing with Vermillion Storm and Malicious Raptor. Do not use 4 riders for horde killing, that's single target DPS only. Maybe for Demless memes, but for survival your choices are Vermillion or Malicious. Vermillion has better AoE on the forward block combo, and after the double spin, let go of your block to reset stance combo and use the forward combo twice. This will do a swing and a spin. Then you reset to forward block combo again and the cycle repeats. This has much better AoE than Malicious Raptor, but only about 2/3 to 3/4 the damage. On Malicious, you just spam neutral melee, smaller AoE, but quite good damage with still very wide hitboxes. Noticeably higher DPS against small crowds than Vermillion. Blood Rush, plus 3 times Gladiator mods including on Garuda, grant plus 770% mod crit here for a total of 304.5 crit chance, and an average 16.8 times crit damage multiplier for all reds, and the very rare, well, exclamation red. Enjoy! You just cast Banish as needed and spam your melee to kill. Doesn't matter if X missed or not, everything dies due to your Diriga's priming. Acolyte, just let your Diriga tag them, tag with a light melee swing, then heavy for a 12 times heavy / scaling. Instant, one-shot bleeds, and the best part? Not even Nullifiers can stop Garuda because her claws aren't an actual channeled ability. Dread Mirror makes surviving easier by blocking frontal damage. Shove it in enemies' faces as needed as it'll knock them down and you're immune to knockdowns yourself. Be fast, be deadly. This is not a chill melee build, you always want to be leaping into battle for the next group of enemies. Cheers! If this is your first time watching, feel free to leave a like or better yet subscribe. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. 79.5% of you are not subscribed. I try my best to get you new information out always as soon as possible, like I've done with the Daggett update and companion rework. Stick around if you want to see interesting memes and builds on a nearly daily basis. You don't miss out on any of that, do you? That'll be it for this video. Thank you all for watching and see you all next time.